Yeah, it is.
We're ready to go.
All right, now we are ready to go.
All right, then I will call this meeting of the Public Works Committee to order. We have a quorum, so we can transact business this evening. The first item of which are the minutes of April 24th, 2023.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I will second. This is Kendra.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion with respect to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the April 24th minutes are approved. Item 2 is Parmenter Street reconstruction, a public information presentation. And Sean, I don't know, would you like to introduce the folks who are going to make the presentation?
I would, yeah. So we have a design team from MSA Professional Services with us this evening. They were here for the open house, so many of you already got to meet them, but I'll say hi to Krista Sommerfeld, who's been doing a lot of the design work, to Bill Pinow, who's the project manager, to Kevin Lord, who oversees it all. So MSA is here, and I've got slides that'll show up on the TV, but I warn you up front, the TV may inexplicably and without notice turn itself off every now and then. So
Just needs a rest.
Sean, before
Yeah.
you begin, can you turn on, I have a speaker on my meeting that says council chambers. Is there any way that you can do that so I can see the council chambers? Is there any way you can turn that camera on, or is that not possible in this format?
that's a good question. Let me see once why that's missing. Yeah, hold on a second.
Thank you. I think that's where the audio is coming from, if that helps.
Testing.
There it is. Thank you.
Did that work?
Yep.
I tell you, if you push enough buttons in this room, something happens.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, good call. All right. So I'll turn it over then. Is that microphone on? Is there a little green light on the top of it?
Yeah, Krista figured it out, so I think we're good.
Sweet. That's usually my Achilles heel. All right.
All right, Sean, thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Bill Pinow. I'm the project manager for the Parmenter Street project, and we're just going to give you a high-level overview of the project to date. Sean's just going to kind of go through some slides. You can go on to the next one, which is just the introduction of who's here tonight, in addition to Kevin Lord, who's also a team leader as well. Go on to the next one. So we just included a couple site photos of Parmenter Street. We met several of the property owners that are located along the property, so everyone knows that what we're talking about here, essentially from Century Avenue to Greenbrier Road, which is currently a rural cross-section roadway, which we'll be reconstructing after working with Sean and city staff. We can move on to the next one. Again, just another photo of current conditions out there. And next one. So the project goals of this is to reconstruct Parmenter Street, again, from Century Avenue to Greenbrier Road. We are essentially converting the rural section into a urban cross section that will look like it'll have bike lanes, sidewalks, multi-use path connecting to an existing path at the north end. In just a few minutes, Krista will go through a little bit more detail on those cross sections, but that cross section is something that we've worked with Sean, the city of Middleton, on that cross section. The design intent is to have a median. There's that blackout you were saying.
I'm saying.
The design is to have a median at the center of the two lanes, and that will be grass temporarily. And in the future, should there ever be additional capacity needed, that median can be converted into additional lane storage. Because of the fact that we're adding additional lanes to the project and additional impervious surface, there is going to be some added stormwater management requirements. So we've got some infiltration basins that Krista will show the locations of those as well. And then the project is designed to account for some additional projects that'll be in the area like Bell Farms and Tribeca as well. This is just a project overview showing the extents of the project. Like we said, up to Greenbrier from Century. And I'm going to turn it over to Krista here, who's just going to kind of talk about some of the design elements of the project.
Yeah, it goes black on your end too?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay. So the black screen you're looking at, there it is. So this is our typical section that most of the roadway design is based off of. The main aspects of it are the 2 driving lanes, one northbound, one southbound, and then adjacent to those are the bike lanes. So that's all within the curb limits. And there is the median he talked about in between those lanes. Terrace areas on the outside, and then on the east side or the right side of this drawing is the multi-use path / bike lane or bike path. And then on the west side is the sidewalk. As you get further north on the project, this varies a little bit, mostly with the terrace space widening. We have a little bit more width in the right of way on the north end of the project. Furthest north, we are eliminating the bike path and the sidewalk, but that's adjacent to your
Up
city
by the
building up there.
operations center. Yeah.
This drawing shows the approximate location of some of the stormwater management facilities. Essentially have 2 linear basins along the west property or west right away between Springton Court and Schrader Road. And then we also have another infiltration basin on the east side, kind of on the north part of the Bell Farms property. The basin is within the right of way, but it's along the Bell Farm property. And these are located towards the north end of the project. As far as the stormwater goes, we need to account for additional impervious area. The majority of that is on the north end. We're converting it, to for sure no curve or from a vegetated area to vegetated swale to a curved area. Again, those are located in the right of way. The final design is not done yet. We're waiting on some more information yet, but essentially linear ponds there. Some of the other aspects of the design project, storm sewer throughout the roadway, including some basins to collect water behind the storm or behind the sidewalk and trails, and then also some minor water main work, including some hydrants.
Kendra, did you have your hand up for a reason?
Yeah, can you have her check her microphone? Because I think it cut out.
Huh. Is the green light still on? Maybe the batteries are dead. That happens too.
Batteries go dead, but they don't take out the green light.
Let's hope not.
The green light came back on. I don't
There,
know.
now-
Okay.
Okay.
Did you need me to go over anything again for that?
Did you miss
No.
something?
It cut out right before she got to the stormwater slides, but that's okay. I don't have any questions.
Okay. And then I did also mention that the other aspects of the project include some minor water main work and some minor sanitary sewer work, and then.
Again,
Oh,
and out again.
It went out again? I'm
Yeah.
just going to change mics. Hold on.
I can hear you because it's picking up on the rest of the room, but it's got a feedback quality to it. Sorry.
It's always something. Okay.
Yes. Hopefully this one works okay. Oh, black
Okay.
screen. Oh, that really sounds. This one works really good. I can hear it, right?
All
Yeah,
right.
I can hear you.
Look at that.
Yeah. You can go to the next screen.
Sure. But thanks for that feedback. I appreciate that.
So this drawing shows just what we're looking at for some traffic control on the project. Pretty much going to be a road closed to through access. We're going to maintain access to businesses and properties throughout the project. Obviously, it's going to be construction, so access isn't going to be a paved lane all the way, but we'll maintain that access and work with the contractor, provide what we need to get to those properties. In the design part of it, oh, you can go actually back in.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. In the design, we do have the medians throughout the project. So we're providing properties with openings at those medians. If they have more than one access, generally it was just one property had full access direction, both northbound and southbound turns. If they had a secondary driveway, it was looking like we were doing right in, right out to kind of minimize those openings and conflicts. Obviously with construction, there'll be interruptions. Mostly it'll be the curb and gutter work, the underground sewer work, storm sewer work, and paving. So again, we'll just coordinate with the contractor to provide access as we can throughout that process. But there will be some times where it is limited due to the construction. We're not planning on posting a full detour route. And we can talk more with Sean if we need to about that, but just road closed, local access only.
All right.
And Bill's going to continue.
So where are we at with the project at this point? We presented the preliminary plans, preliminary design to Sean. That's really what we shared with individuals tonight. Obviously, we did not have the full plan set out on display. But what we'd be looking for is the city approval, which we're expecting tonight. And then as far as other items that have been completed, we have completed the right-of-way plat and the relocation order that has been approved by the city council. And that's currently on file at the Dane County Register of Deeds. Any property owners that have real estate interest in the property, I believe there's been 16 letters have been sent out. So I believe everybody that we talked to tonight has at least had that initial contact. Those discussions will continue for the next 4 to 5 months after the properties are appraised. And then there is continued discussions with the property owners. And again, I explained this a couple of times. There's basically 3 different types of fee interest, which is, it's called TLE, which is temporary limited easement. That's basically a short-term easement used for grading during construction. PLE, which is permanent limited easement. And that would be a permanent easement that stays in place after construction, typically like for a stormwater. And then there's fee where actually right-of-way is taken or acquired from the city from a property owner. So we have all 3 of those involved in this project. Currently, we have had the property staked for those 3 easements or fee. And again, that real estate process will continue for the next 4 to 5 months. And then essentially after that item, after that is completed, the design will be finalized. And then once it's approved by the city, we're expecting it to be bid in December of 2023 and likely awarded in early 2024. You can go on to the next one. So as far as planned construction after the bidding process in early 24, we would expect construction to take place sometime, weather pending, April or May of 2024, approximately take around 3 months and be completed by the end of summer in 2024. And then Krista, myself, or Kevin are here if there's any additional questions from staff.
If members of the public have any questions at this point, this would be your opportunity to ask them as well.
I would say if there is a question that we weren't able to address during the open house portion, if you would use the microphone, folks at home could hear it. Now that it's working.
Right.
No, it's working.
Now that it's working, nobody has anything to say.
Well, that's okay too. And obviously, you have contact information for folks. So as questions do come up. let
Yeah, there
people
is
know.
several follow-up questions that we'll have based on conversations during the open house.
Good. Okay.
All right, committee members, anybody have any questions of the folks making the presentation?
Well, I guess I have a question about the agenda because I do have questions, but we also have, I mean, our next agenda item is to talk about the design, correct?
Right. Yep.
So should I just reserve my questions for that? or-
I think so. We'll wait till we get to the action item, I guess, and then you can do it then.
Thanks.
All right, well, if there are no questions from either members of the committee or members of the public in attendance, we'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda, which is Parmenter Street reconstruction preliminary design. And this is the point at which we will make some decisions. So having heard the information that was presented, now, Lisa, if you have questions, now
Sure.
would be the time to proceed, I think.
Thank you. Let's start with the stormwater basins. If we could bring up the map. I'm looking at
Sure.
pages 21 and 22 thereabouts. And that's just the number in the packet. So I'm not sure what number it is in your file. First of all, I saw the reference to Prairie Nursery as being the source of the seeds or the plant mix that will go in the basins, and I love them. So I hope you definitely will use them. Who will be responsible for maintaining these basins? I assume that's a city responsibility. Would Public Works or Parks have that? Or it depends on who's available?
It might depend what it is, but typically things in the right of way, I think, have been maintained by Public Works. Things that are outside the right of way, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag between Public Works and Parks.
Okay. I know that neighbors will come to love seeing the flowers and wildlife that will be growing and living in these basins. So I hope we'll be mindful of not mowing at the height of the growing season, which has been an issue for some folks in District 6. I noted on the maps, there are several places where it says delineated wetlands, and I'm just wondering, are these stormwater basins going to be located where there's already a wetland existing? It seemed like there was only one spot where there's a delineated wetland that doesn't have a stormwater basin planned for it.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's-
sorry, Krista,
Yep,
if you could go to the
sorry.
microphone.
Yep,
And now I'm looking at page 27.
yeah. let me
Sean,
just-
if that helps.
I can bring that up on the screen then. So you're looking at these blue areas. Is that right?
That's what it looks like on.
Yeah. So those blue areas are the delineated wetlands. That's further south than where the basins are right now. Let me get my bearings here.
Yeah, because that's
So
great.
this is just north of Tribeca Drive, north of. Braden.
Yeah, so there's a ditch line there. So some of that ditch line is the delineated wetland. So that is going to be, where the trail is going to go through on that side. The other delineated wetland is, further north where the basin is. So maybe page through a couple more.
So, yeah, let me go
Yep.
back to 28.
Yeah, so those two blue areas there, yes, is where the infiltration basins would be going. Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about the multi-use path. I'm wondering why not have multi-use path on the north and east and west sides of the street. I know if you go to the first section or the first slide that shows the cross section, the typical cross section, it's got sidewalk and then multi-purpose path. And maybe not that you need to change this for me, but I do ride my bike to Middleton Outreach Ministry from my house. And I'm wondering why, especially with the apartments there, wanting to encourage people to commute on their bikes, why would we not put a multi-purpose path on both sides and not just have a sidewalk on the west side?
Yeah, and it was actually a little bit tight. This was talked about a couple of years ago through various committees and the Common Council before it was landed on as a 90-foot wide typical right-of-way section. And within that, we were starting to get really narrow terraces already. So there was concern with city forestry that the terraces any narrower wouldn't support tree growth or snow storage. And there isn't much that makes the snowplow guys less popular than having snow on sidewalks. So that all kind of fed into it, that we didn't want more right of way. There really on the south end isn't room for more right of way, but the more we pave, the less grass we have.
I guess I would wonder what the Ped Bike and Transit Committee thought of the difference between bike lanes, because if I'm not mistaken, this width accommodates bike lanes on both sides.
It does, yeah, or a wide shoulder. And if we had, picture it, just an 11-foot wide ribbon of asphalt with curb and gutter on both sides, our snowplows don't really fit very well on something like that. But also if there's a bicyclist out in that lane, there isn't a whole lot of lateral room for forgiveness between a vehicle and a bicyclist. So because bikes have a right to be in the street, I presume some will be in the street, but if we don't give them any safe space, I think we would regret that.
Well, I guess, I hear all the time from constituents, why doesn't Middleton have better bike infrastructure? And, paint is not protective. I mean, I think we should stop pretending that painting bike lanes is building infrastructure that's going to keep people safe and encourage people to actually use it. I know if I'm given the choice between riding on a bike lane on a busy street or a sidewalk, even though I'm not supposed to be on the sidewalk, I'm going on the sidewalk. And I certainly would encourage and have encouraged my kids to do that. So all I'm suggesting is there a way to forego the bike lanes and use that, what is it? Is it 2.5 feet for each bike lane, and use that to create equity, or, have equal sides where you've got a multi-purpose path on the east and one on the west as well.
I think at the time this cross section was set, that had been considered, but again, I don't think that an 11-foot strip is going to be accommodating to both motorists and bicyclists. And while I respect people that would prefer to ride off the road, I know plenty of people that very much prefer to ride on the street because it avoids tricycles and dogs on leashes and people who may suddenly move sideways. And for them, those are all hazards too. So I'm not saying the council can't change that at some point, but that was all of what fed into the decision is frankly, the Public Works Committee wanted more right of way, but that didn't happen either. 90 feet was set.
Can the bike lanes be painted green or otherwise protected in some way like they do in Madison?
I think that bike lanes can be painted green. I know Madison has a pretty high price tag on something like that. They were looking at in the ballpark of $8.50 a square foot. And it doesn't tend to last very long. So it has a significant expense, but it also has to be rough for friction. If you've biked over some of those wide crosswalks that we've got in the rain, they can be pretty slippery. So a whole bike lane like that can also get pretty slippery. So they want a really rough texture to that paint. And I think that's part of what made it expensive.
But it sounds like it can be done.
I think it can be done. Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, do we know what the per square foot cost is of the Pleasant View Road reconstruction?
I do not know.
I'm gonna guess it's more than $8.50 per square
It
foot.
has to be more than that.
Yeah. And then finally, one more thing about pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, crosswalks. So when crossing the driveways, is it possible to have raised crosswalks?
Sidewalk through the driveways typically is at grade. We don't drop down and put ramps in at driveways typically.
Well, what I would like to see is raised crosswalks to get across Parmenter as well, but I understand that that's not recommended for a road that's got a lot of truck traffic, for example.
Oh,
So what I'm wondering is,
Hmm.
at least for, and maybe it's only for the multi-purpose path, because I think that's where all the driveways would be. But instead of dipping down and going back up, having it be a raised crosswalk.
to raise the road as a speed hump, essentially, or is that what
Yes.
you're talking about?
Well, yeah, you could think of it as raising the road or raising the crosswalk.
Okay, all right. I was thinking across a driveway, but you mean to cross the street.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, so we have not talked about effectively a speed hump or a raised crosswalk at that bike path crossing.
Have we done that anywhere in Middleton?
I don't know for sure. I can't picture it offhand if we have.
Okay. I'll just note that the US Department of Transportation says it can reduce vehicle pedestrian crashes by 45%. So I think that's, and there are other benefits too, but I think that's something for us to consider in the future. And then finally on sustainability, the medians and the terraces, what will they be planted with? And I'm asking because I would really love to see something that is low maintenance. We have a goal of getting to 100% renewable energy by the year 2050. And one way to do that is to reduce the amount of time we spend mowing. And I'm just curious what can be done there.
I think there's a variety of seed mixtures we can look at in this preliminary stage or preliminary design. I believe we just have it called out as seed fertilizer and mulch, but that's certainly something we can look at, work with Sean and make some recommendations for a seed mixture.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right, any further questions from the committee? All right, hearing none, is someone on the committee prepared to make a motion at this point?
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary design for Parmenter Street.
All right, we have a motion to approve the preliminary design. Is there a second to Carl's motion?
I'll second. This is Kendra.
Who seconded it?
Kendra.
Kendra.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, I guess I'm just wondering, how do we, approving the preliminary,
Mhm.
what happens to things like having green paint for the bike lanes, or considering, is it possible to put the multipurpose path on both sides?
Yeah, so I think we'd have to talk about that and think about that and come back to the committee during final or prior to final design
Prior to final,
with,
okay.
with some of those issues and options for consideration.
Further questions, further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it and the preliminary design is approved. Thank you for your presentation, MSA people. And that, I believe, brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening.
Yeah, let me hop back to that. So it is, right. Have a motion to adjourn then?
This is Kendra. I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second to
I'll second.
Kendra's motion? A motion that has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it and we stand adjourned. Thank you for your presentation. Thanks. Well, the public is mostly gone, but thank them for coming for their input as well. And we will be back in business in 2 weeks, I guess.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.